What, how, and why of phototherapy techniques, and what does this have to do with therapeutic photography? How can photos be used to help people? How can psychologists, therapists, psychiatrists, and other mental health professionals make use of these unique qualities of photographs to help people improve their emotional well-being and make positive changes in their lives? And how can others adapt these methods to other ways of helping themselves and others in situations where the skills of a trained mental health professional aren't needed? I'll begin by providing an overview about the what, how, and most importantly, the why of phototherapy techniques, and then discuss how therapeutic photography techniques evolved as a later successful adaptation of these earlier techniques, as the ongoing very successful work of Belfast Exposed has so clearly demonstrated, for people to be able to help themselves and others, as well as communities and society in general. However, before I begin, there's just a few items of housekeeping. First, I want to thank Deirdre Robb inviting me to present today, and Jose Neves and Lucy Dugan for their excellent organizational skills. Second, to take care of any ethics about photos or personal stories I might be sharing here today that are not already in the public domain. I want to confirm that I do have written permission to use these on file and can provide those on request. Third, to tell you that while you're welcome to take photos of my slides or text for your own referencing later, please remember these belong to me. They are copyrighted as my own intellectual property, so please do not reuse them again without giving proper credit. Thanks. And especially, fourth, I suggest you have your phone cameras ready to take pics of my final slides, the last of which will show you where you can get more information about these techniques, as well as how to get your name and email address onto the notification list for my soon-to-begin online courses that can educate you in more depth about all these topics. The final slide today is also available for download from my own page on the conference website, and I believe it was also provided to all of you as a part of your conference welcome package. And now the introduction. Every photograph you take or respond to is in some ways also a self-portrait, reflecting back to you what and who has mattered most in your life. Acting like mirrors with memory, your photos serve as footprints of your life, leaving traces not only of where you've been, but also sometimes showing you where you might next be going, even if you don't know it yet. Most people keep photographs around without ever pausing to really think about why. But because these permanently record important daily moments and the associated emotions unconsciously embedded within these, personal snapshots can serve as natural bridges for accessing, exploring, and communicating about feelings and memories, including deeply buried or long forgotten ones, along with any psychotherapeutic issues this might involve. Because personal snapshots and album photos are visual metaphors for an actual moment, for the experiencing of raw feelings, which also happen all at once in a photograph rather than in any certain order. These can assist people in remembering, imagining, confronting, and exploring complex parts of themselves and their lives. A photograph is not just a two-dimensional image on a piece of paper. It's a moment of time being held in your hands, and it has been frozen there forever. But when you look at any photo, what appears on its surface, inside its borders, is instantly perceived by you as being in three dimensions, as if real and alive, as if it's happening right now, even if taken a long time ago. And so your mind makes the leap that you are there, in that scene, right now, Your mind doesn't say, I'm seeing what a mechanical object documented. A photograph is simultaneously a realistic illusion and an illusory reality, a moment captured from within time, yet never able to be fully captured in its true form when stilled as a frozen moment of time. We use the film, or digital film, to stop time, which cannot be stopped. These aspects are crucial for understanding why and how both phototherapy and therapeutic photography techniques work. They permit the complex examination of a frozen slice of time fixed onto film forever as fact, and yet at the same time its visually symbolic contents can evoke an endless possibility of realities that will also be perceived differently by each individual looking at it. Using their own photographs as a bridge into exploring the inside of their minds and hearts too, can give people added support in the process of dealing with the related thoughts, feelings, and associated memories that often get triggered with unexpected intensity. It becomes obvious, therefore, that when ordinary personal non-art snapshots are used as a focusing lens, they might be able to reveal inner secrets if only the right kinds of questions are asked during exploration of it, guided by someone trained to know how to handle whatever might arise as a result. While the meaning of any photograph might be intended to be seen a certain way by the person who originally took it, this will always also be open to any later viewer's own interpretation based on their own unique personal filters for making sense of it. Understanding all these things, it quickly becomes clear that the actual meaning of any photograph lies less in the visual details on its surface and more in what these details evoke inside the mind and heart of each viewer. While looking at a snapshot, people actually spontaneously create the meaning they think is coming from that photo itself. And this may or may not be the meaning that the photographer originally intended to convey. For this reason, photographs will always contain stories beyond the ability of words to fully represent or deconstruct. And it will always communicate in symbolic ways that can be only selectively and usually unconsciously noticed. Sometimes these even connect with unconscious emotional memories buried so deep inside that the person may not even know they're there until some outside trigger explodes them into reality unexpectedly. And yes, I'm talking about trauma here. Over the past 5 decades, therapists, counselors, and other mental health professionals have been increasingly using people's own personal and family snapshots, as well as those taken by others, as a way to help them reach deeper levels inside themselves during therapy sessions than words alone could ever take them. While people answer their therapist questions about photos, try to explain the reasons for their answers in this therapeutic conversation. The therapist begins to understand better more about that person's own unique way of experiencing the world and life and themselves and others around them, and making sense of all of this, as well as what they notice or don't notice, what they pay attention to or don't, what really matters to them. And this can help the person become more aware of how they can make positive changes in their lives once they learn how to do that. And now, after all this introductory preparation I've just given about how photos create meaning and can tell stories, and therefore can be like the keys to open previously closed doors inside a person, I will now finally talk about the 2 partners in the continuum of photo-based helping techniques: phototherapy and therapeutic photography. Phototherapy techniques are therapy practices that use people's personal snapshots, family albums, and pictures taken by others, and the feelings, thoughts, memories, and associations these photos evoke as catalysts to deepen insight, increase psychological well-being, improve personal relationships and interpersonal communication during their therapy or counseling sessions in ways not possible using spoken conversation alone. These techniques are used only by therapists, psychologists, and other trained mental health professionals who have already been fully trained and licensed to practice before they learn these additional specific photo-based techniques to improve their work helping people. Therapeutic photography techniques are photographic practices done by people themselves in situations where the skills of a trained therapist or counselor aren't needed. In therapeutic photography practices, photos are used to increase people's own self-insight, self-awareness, improve their lives and relationships with family and others, lessen social exclusion, assist in rehabilitation, promote personal, community, and societal well-being, and produce other kinds of photo-based personal, emotional healing and learning. Therapeutic photography techniques are about people using cameras and photographs for and by themselves as their own agents of change, exploration, and empowerment, and thus improving their lives and well-being. And if these are instead created for an outcome goal of being shown later in things like exhibitions or publications to inform others, often strangers, about the need for improvement in communities or society in general, in understanding and empathizing with the lives of others whose lives are often disempowered, marginalized, underprivileged, and disenfranchised. Those people with racial, cultural, religious, and/or physical mental differences, or personal experiences like immigrants or refugees, addictions, trauma, homelessness, and other situations that significantly differ from those in the mainstream society lives that surround them all day. When their photos are shared through public displays, often accompanied with comments created by those in the photos or the person who took these, explaining the reasons why they took them and what they hope will change in the minds of later viewers as a result of seeing or reading these. The hoped-for goal of creating some more positive attitudes in the community. These are called social action photography projects. It's very important to know that neither phototherapy nor therapeutic photography techniques require any prior experience with cameras or any knowledge about photographic art, and that they can be used as tools within any theoretical, psychological modality or approach, and to help with any kind of person or problems. Their difference lies in the simple fact that phototherapy requires the professional skills of a trained therapist, whereas therapeutic photography doesn't. These two fields are not opposite, nor are they enemies. Instead, they should be viewed as two endpoints of a very thriving continuum along which all photo-based healing practices can be situated without threatening or invalidating each other. While phototherapy and therapeutic photography are different in many ways, both make use of the secret lives of ordinary non-art photographs as active agents of change, exploration, reflection, empowerment, and healing, where the art part of photography does not matter in the use of the technologies themselves. Phototherapy and therapeutic photography both use photos to help people whose lives feel like they're not under control anymore, and both can involve any kind of photographic imagery, including not just cameras and film like the old days, but also digital electronic formats, videos, DVDs, films, even pages grabbed from magazines or web pages, as well as technologies not yet even being invented. Phototherapy and therapeutic photography are about reasons why people take, keep, look at, share, remember, and even imagine photographic images, and the reason why these mirrors with memory hold so much power in people's lives. Both are about the heart part of photos rather than their art part. Photographs used as active agents of change and insight. Their 5-part framework of activation tools are pretty much the same. It's what they are used for and by whom, and most importantly, for what purpose, that distinguish the differences between their usefulness during therapy or in non-therapy applications. And now I will speak only for a while about phototherapy techniques, not only because this is my primary specialty since the mid-1970s as an original pioneer of them, but also since therapeutic photography, social action photography, and all other related photo-based helping techniques are based on the exact same 5-part original framework of activations tool that I'm going to tell you about now. So I don't need to repeat these when I focus later on therapeutic photography and how it can also help. The 5 interrelated phototherapy techniques are connected to the various relationships possible between a person and a camera, or a person and a photograph. Although in practice, these categories often naturally overlap and are also frequently used in various combinations with one another. There are photos taken by a person, photos of a person taken by others, photos of them taken by themselves, i.e. self-portraits, including selfies, yes, and family photos, what I like to call photobiographical photographs. This could be family of choice, family of birth, or both. But there is one more technique that underlies all the others, which I have named the photoprojective technique, because it deals with the ways and reasons that a person gets any meaning at all from a photograph in the first place. The projective process by which people make sense out of what their eyes are seeing, how they actually actively project the meaning they perceive as being inherent from the photograph, as if it's there for everybody to see its meaning the same way. Now, to teach these 5 techniques and how they interact, I have to artificially separate them in order to teach them individually. But in reality, they are often blended and combined together to achieve the best benefits each provides for helping a particular person with a particular problem. All 5 phototherapy techniques are like the fingers of a hand and similarly quite inseparable from it. They work best when synergistically combined, like one finger on its own can't do much. And the 5th one, the photoprojective, acts like the thumb of the hand in that none of them can really be activated without its involvement. All these techniques are very much interrelated and interdependent, and for each there is both a reflective and active component, as well as not only what is done during the therapy session, but also things a therapist might assign them to do later with additional photos or photo taking, such as homework assignments. Go take more photos and bring them back to show and discuss in the next session. But since this interrelated and interdependent system must be artificially taken apart in order to teach each one in detail, I will now provide a brief summary about each one individually. And since the photoprojective technique underlies all the others, I will now begin with it. Photoprojectives make use of the phenomenological fact that the meaning of any photograph is primarily created by its viewer during their process of perceiving it. The story of the photo isn't in the photo. It's in each viewer who creates its meaning their own way. Looking at any kind of photographic image produces perceptions and reactions that are projected from that person's own inner map of reality that determines how they make sense of what they're seeing. Therefore, this technique is located not in a particular kind of process, but rather in the less tangible interface between a photo and its viewer or maker, the place where each person forms their own unique responses to what they see. Second technique, photos taken or collected or created by the client. The person actually using a camera to make the picture, appropriating other images off websites or found photos in magazines, postcards, internet images, digital manipulation, and so forth. The third, photos which have been taken or created of the client by other people, whether posed on purpose, taken spontaneously while that person was unaware of being photographed, or where people other than the client have made all the decisions about timing, content, location, and so forth. Fourth, and a very important one, self-portraits, which means any kind of photos that clients have made of themselves, either literally or metaphorically. But in all cases, these are photos of clients where they themselves had full control and power over all aspects of the image's creation. And yes, as I said before, this includes selfies too. Last one, family album and other photobiographical collections, whether of birth family, family of choice, whether formally kept in albums like the old days or more loosely combined into narratives by placement on walls, refrigerator doors, inside wallets, desktop frames, computer screens, family websites, and so forth, which were put together for the purpose of documenting the personal narrative of the client's life and the background from which they developed. Such albums have a life apart from and far beyond the images that comprise them. These same 5 phototherapy techniques are used in both therapeutic photography and its subset of social action photography. Therapeutic photography being adaptations of phototherapy techniques used by people to help themselves and other people in situations where the skills of a mental professional are not needed, and its subset of social action photography, adaptations of phototherapy techniques used by people to help communities and societies in general in situations where the skills of a mental health professional are not needed. Each of these kinds of photos has its own unique reason for being useful in both therapy and therapeutic photography practice, and therefore each can be used in activating whatever goals have already been selected for the hoped-for outcome of that process in this particular session. These are simply tools. Even if you fully know how to use each of them properly, you don't use them in a session of any kind until you already have in mind the therapeutic intention, the healing intention you have planned, your outcome goal for that session, what you are using them for accomplishing during that session, and as always, most importantly, why. Since phototherapy techniques are used as interrelated tools rather than fixed directives based upon only one specific modality, they can be used by any kind of trained counselor or therapist, just as successfully used by any person doing therapeutic photography or social action activities. But with all good techniques, these have continued to evolve as new technology and applications came into existence over the past few decades, which, with the result that now there's even more categories having to be added to the originally bipolar framework of photo-based helping techniques on one end and therapeutic photography on the other. And these include video therapy, therapeutic filmmaking, photo art therapy, photo-based coaching practices, and several others, although time doesn't permit me to describe these individually during this session. Just, in conclusion, just ask yourself, why do you take pictures? Why do you keep them? Would you still take them if you knew nobody but you would ever see them? What photos would you take if this is the last time you could take one? If your home was on fire and you could only grab 10 photographs, which ones would you choose and why? And no, you can't use photos on digital storage devices for this answer. What would be different in your life if photography totally ceased to exist? What would be missing in your life if it had never existed at all? So much more is living inside photographs than people first realize. Each visual detail of any photograph is like a hypertext link. It creates meaning, connects you with feelings, holds secrets, triggers memories, tells its own stories, whether it's used as tools for therapy, less formal helping of oneself or others, or as a social action project activities to increase well-being and reduce social exclusion. Photographs are truly worth way more than just the 1,000 words we've heard about. So, before I forget, there's one last thing I must tell you before I stop. This person that you're looking at is an interesting fact that I'm certain most of you don't even know. One of the earliest pioneers of therapeutic photography and particular social action photography possibility of these was Father Ciaran Early, Oblate minister in Dublin, Ireland, folks. Now deceased, but a close friend of mine once we started corresponding. He started using black and white photos taken by various photographers of ordinary moments in daily life in Ireland to elicit people's comments about their feelings in response to what they were seeing. Part of his work at an organization for the personal and social development of adults from a faith perspective, named Partners in Faith, which still exists, in the final years of the past century, an early pioneer in Ireland, and continuing this until his death in 2008, which turns out to be the same year that I myself actually first named these kind of techniques as being therapeutic photography, during my invited opening presentation at that year's International Phototherapy Conference in Turku, Finland. And on March 11th, 2010, these photos were formally published and began being sold by Partners in Faith as a photocard kit named Photospeak. Ciaran described this kit as a collection of 72 photographs taken from everyday life in Ireland, chosen for their evocative connection with key places and moments from the life experience of ordinary people. He wrote, "The photographs were designed to be used in a wide variety of ways, from simple icebreakers to deeper personal sharing, to socially analysis issues. The only constraint to how they can be used is up to the creativity of the facilitator. They are an excellent resource in working with groups at any level." Ciaran often used these as a focus for conversations to lessen tension between the two sides in Ireland. As people talked about their feelings in response to selecting, viewing, and talking about various photos of Ireland's daily life at those times, they often began to realize these were often shared by many people in that room on both sides, ending up with the result that earlier tension between those two groups of usually adversarial people was nicely lessened when they began to see each other as individual human beings with sad hearts in their deep caring for their countries, rather than a category of those people we don't like. And much friendlier conversations usually happen before leaving the room. Ciaran summarized this social action photography work, partially based on the writings of Paulo Freire, this way: we don't do therapy, but rather work for the social transformation. Photos as expressive of generative themes in people's personal, social, and cultural lives, and what people expressed upon seeing these. And as my next slide shows, this kit still exists. It has now been reissued recently in a second edition and is still being used to help people reduce tensions between themselves. And now, officially ending the slideshow, I want to say that I have always wanted to name or title this kind of presentation much more informally as "My Stuff Explains Why Your Stuff Works." But I decided that might not bring as big an audience as today's is. So now I'm going to show you individual slides of the links, the places where you can see and receive and download and join the many people interested in all of these techniques. And I also want to remind you once more that the final slide, which is the one in your handout, is a full list of these links and a download PDF with hot links to let you access these directly. And this final slide is how to find more information. So first, my website, Phototherapy and Therapeutic Photography Techniques, photo-based helping techniques for mental health professionals and others. The others is where therapeutic photography fits in. My Facebook group with over 10,000 individually approved members. Nobody can get into it without telling me their reason for either working with or being interested in using photos to help people, is very active. My book, although it was originally published long ago, it's in third edition, and it's now available also online as an ebook, as well as Italian, Russian, Korean, and now simplified Chinese translations. If any of you know how to get a publisher in French or Spanish that would like to publish my book, please let me know. The website, the Facebook group, my book, an announcement about online courses starting soon with a link to the page that will become active when they do. And finally, how to subscribe to our news and event notification list, where you'll be among the first to hear when the courses go live. And at the very bottom, my name, my phone number in Canada, Pacific time, and my email. So now to end this, again, I want to give my big thanks to Belfast Exposed for not only inviting me to do this keynote, but also the other fascinating presentations I'm looking forward to hearing and seeing, and also all the work of the Belfast Exposed team in getting this all organized. I'm sorry I couldn't be there with you this year, but I've promised to come in person to their next one in 2027. Thank you. And now the final slide is the how to find more information, the website, the Facebook group, my book, and an announcement about online courses starting soon with a link to the page that will become active when they do. And finally, how to subscribe to our news and event notification list, where you'll be among the first to hear when the courses go live. And at the very bottom, my name, my phone number in Canada, Pacific time, and my email. So now to end this, again, I want to give my big thanks to Belfast Exposed for not only inviting me to do this keynote, but also the other fascinating presentations I'm looking forward to hearing and seeing, and also all the work of the Belfast.
Yeah, and now you have Judy live.
Hello.
Hello. Hello, that was amazing, Judy, and it's such a lot of information. We're going to we're going to open to the floor to see if anybody's any questions. And if you do have questions, you wouldn't give your name as well, but because of the situation, I'm going to have to repeat it and ask Judy myself. Okay? So, do we have anybody want questions? Any hands up?
Oh no. Are they awake?
Yeah, no.
I'm sorry. I was at the very back of the room. Hi, Julie. Thank you so much for tuning in here today with us. My question is, what technique? Oh, can you hear me?
No, I repeat.
You repeated it. Okay. What technique do we have now in modern days? Like maybe is it digital or whatever technique that we have now that would have helped Judy when she was first starting out as a phototherapist?
The question is, what technique do we need to have now in contemporary today that would have helped you when you were starting out and when you were starting to develop this practice?
Could you repeat that just a bit slower?
Okay. What technique do we have now that you didn't have when you were starting out that would have aided you in your practice?
Sorry. Computers, digital technology, internet, Google. There is a huge amount of technology now that all can be used as tools to support the original 5 techniques. I started out doing video therapy with my psychology clients. I had a video camera on a tripod in a room all by itself, and I had to get up to turn it on and off. And, things like that don't happen anymore. What I am so strong about is that the tools are always improving. The way they are used is up to the practitioner of either set of techniques to integrate them in the work you're doing in a way that's easy for the people that you're helping. I hope that answers it.
Yep.
If not, she can ask again.
Is that okay? Yep. Cool. Anyone else?
Hi, Judy. Just would love to hear any examples you have of where you've used any one of these techniques and yeah, what happened?
She would like an example of what something you done the technique. Say it again.
Just the use of the techniques and in practice, and what if there was an outcome, what was it, and so on.
The use of the technique that you've done, give an example of that, and what was the outcome?
Aha. Okay. The original slideshow I put together had examples for each of these things. I am going to try to find something for you while maybe another question's coming in. I think I can find it and read it to you. So, yeah, hold on. Find image. It's easier than telling you because this way I'm quoting someone else instead of making up a story. So just hold on a second. Name contains AIN. Just stay there. I'm almost there. Aha. Here we go. I'm going to try to share my screen. Will that work? Hold on. Hold on. I just have to find it. Share screen. Share. The host isn't allowing sharing for this meeting.
We're fixing that now.
Hello, Connor.
Hello again. Let's see.
While I'm at it, hello, Neil. Hello, Mark. Hello, Sissy. Hello, Francesca.
That's you now,
This
Judy.
is like a party and not a presentation.
I'll see you
All
again.
right. All right. There we go.
Good to go, Judy.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, take a look at this picture. The person who asked the question, what do you see? What do you think's happening? What would you title it? I'm not going to go back and forth with you, but I just want you to think about those things, and I'm going to tell you the story. I can't read it because I don't have it close by, but most people have different kinds of stories. My favorite story is a woman who said, it's a face in a train window. He's looking out at the real world going by and would like to get off the train, but there's no way to do it because it's moving too fast. I can identify with that because I'm trying to finish my graduate degree, and all day, every day, I'm having to work toward this eventual goal, like a train arriving at the station finally where the person can get off and be happy. But right now, it describes to me what I try to tell people about when I try to explain my feelings of not being able to be with my friends or go out for dinner because I'm busy with school. It was something like that. Now, on my website, on the web page about the 5 techniques, you can go to that page, and with every single one, there are anecdotes like this with printed text as the deeper explanation, like on projective techniques on that web page. You can click a link right there and go and read this story. There's many others, and if I was doing this only on phototherapy techniques, I would have loved to have kept going and told you. But this conference is about therapeutic photography. The best people to ask that question to are sitting near you in the audience. They know what works. You've got successful stories all over that room. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, if that's okay. Entire screen. I don't want to lose you. I don't know what to do here. Hold on a second. Stop share. There we go. All right. Think about that in 1975, what just happened, and the fact that if you told me we'd be talking live across the world by digital technology so that I could show you something in Belfast when I'm sitting close to Vancouver, that's the kind of thing that'll happen in your next 30 or 40 years. Technology I can't even imagine, and I'll long be dead by that time. So remember this.
Okay, we have another question here for you, Judy.
My name is Gwen Stevenson. My question is, in phototherapy techniques, how do you work with the absence of family photographs?
Judy, this is a question from Gwen Stevenson, and her question was, in the absence of
family photographs. So I'm thinking about
in the absence of family photographs, how do you use the technique?
Very easily. If there are no family photographs, you could go out and find or download or take photos that could represent your family if you wanted to do that. A lot of people I used to say your family of origin, and one of my dearest colleagues, some of you may know, in Florida, it was adopted. And she came up to me in a training workshop and said, I don't have any family photos. Good question. Okay. If it is important to research your background and find out genetically, I can't help you much. if the fact that you don't have any family photographs is a problem, that's very different than if it isn't. So first of all, I would say, you don't have any family photos. Do you wish you had some? And if they say, yeah, then I say, well, what kind of photo you think would be the one that you would take if you could have? Go out and take some pictures before our next session of families that you think were like yours. Were they pleasant? Were they nasty? Were they sad? Why don't you consider imagining your family in an album and tell me about those pages? They go in deep. I mean, the therapist has to know how to, it's a mild hypnosis. I wouldn't suggest you try it on your neighbors or friends. If you don't have, some people don't take pictures and they say, well, what are you going to do? And I say, well, either you can start taking them. I'm also a licensed art therapist, so I may say, draw them if you can't see them. I often have people put their family photographs on a piece of paper with Scotch tape and draw the scene around them and make it a bigger scene. Every photo we have is a frame out of a larger reality. And sometimes you can just stretch that frame and see what else is in there. It's all a bit of hypnosis. It's a therapy technique. But if they are not bothered by having no family photographs, it's a very different situation. I don't know. It's hard to explain this quickly.
Okay, thank you. We have another question coming up, have we?
Good. I like questions.
Hi, this is Allison Klein. And my question is kind of the tangibility of a printed photograph versus digital. Do you feel like there's any difference in how people react? I think younger people may not even have any connection at all to a printed photograph, whereas myself, I definitely feel more nostalgic and more emotional when I'm holding a picture.
Okay, that's
That was
Alison.
a long one, Deirdre. Good luck.
That is Alison Klein's. She was comparing the tangibility of a digital photograph and a printed photograph. And do you find much difference with that? And I suppose her analogy was, look, maybe young people who've never really seen many printed photographs, most of them they'll have experienced digitally. But for her to have the tangibility of a photograph in her hand is nostalgic and important to her. Have you experienced that?
Oh, yes, I'm old. Again, I remind you of the part of the presentation where I said the technology that created the photographic image doesn't matter. So if you wish to work with photographs printed on paper, then I just saw your camera froze a moment. I got worried. We're having lightning storms here, folks, which is why I may cut out at any moment. In the future, lightning won't bother video. So the issue is when you look at the photographic image, and I stopped saying photograph for the very reason you brought up, a photo. It's the contents, the visual contents, and the emotional feelings and memories it evokes. It doesn't matter how it was created. The fact that a lot of people, including some in the room, grew up without photo albums. Well, there's photo family websites. There's digital albums. Without taking photos and holding them, it's fine. You hold your phone. The fact that it was created digitally rather than on film is not relevant. What's relevant is you look at this picture and you are there. You're like the picture I showed you. You got right into that, folks. It doesn't matter if it was on a screen or a camera or a piece of paper. However, there's sometimes that working with them on paper is quite fascinating. In my workshops, people come in with 10 or 15 photos that have personal meaning to them. They lay them all out on a table. And then I say, you can only save 3 of them. There's a fire. Let's get out of here. Which 3 do you grab? Like, you can create the tools for working with paper photographs. You can't do with digital unless you have a screen full of photos and say, start deleting, which in the day of USB storage dongles and web transfer storage places, just deleting a digital photo isn't the same as tearing up a photo.
Okay, that's great. Maybe time for one more question. Oh, we're going to have 2 questions. Sorry, Judy.
That's fine. I got time.
Hello, Judy. It's Amy Adams here. I just wondered, a school curriculum and this technique, what do you think? Should it be a part of the school curriculum? What age would you recommend it for? Because I would like to take it into schools. That's my question.
The question is in relation to the school curriculum, and do you think this should be brought into schools? And if so, at what age range do you think it would be appropriate for?
That's a very generalized question. When you're talking about school curriculum, are you talking about things students have to learn? Or are you talking about bringing these helping techniques into schools as a school counselor might do? I'm a little confused.
You got the mic?
After school club, like
after school club.
extracurricular, all part of the PSHE part.
Extracurricular activity, I suppose.
Okay, so it's not really the curriculum, which means everything everybody's being taught. Okay, so after school activities. Oh, yes. My master's degree is in college and agency guidance and counseling. I have worked with a number of marginalized populations whose kids are going to school every day. Either they have problems or their parents do. The school counselors might well have noticed kids that need this kind of after-school activity. There's several ways you can do it. As a phototherapy practitioner, I wouldn't touch it because school counselors can only go so deep. You don't want to take these kids in any deeper than their parents are going to allow you to do if they find out. However, therapeutic photography, there are tons of therapeutic photography projects done with kids after school, giving kids cameras to talk about what it's like to go to school there, giving kids cameras to show other kids what their home life is like, what is different. I'm from a different culture. I'm from a different race. I'm a different gender. I have 2 dad parents and no mom parents. Whatever is happening in their life that they might find that the person organizing this event or this process might find helpful to the kids in an after-school program to share with each other or to learn skills and increase their self-esteem by taking photos that they're proud of and having little exhibitions, taking pictures of each other where there's no rules, doing selfies, which we couldn't do in the old days. In other words, yes, after-school projects, summer projects with kids, a lot of this is going on. My Facebook group has been up for 12 years. Go to the page, go to the top right to the search box, type schools, type youth, type kids. You're going to find dozens and dozens and dozens of projects. Some of the people who are presenting here probably have done the work with kids. And yes, even little guys, kindergartners. They got phone cameras now. One of my favorite stories is a mother gave a very simple camera to her 4-year-old who took pictures all the time they were out for a walk. And of course, the little one's short. The pictures the kid took were all from a much lower angle. The mother looks like a towering giant. I mean, what it is you get the pictures. Then you talk about them. And the person guiding the talking has to have a plan as to why they're doing this, what they're going to do, what is the outcome goal, and how to know whether you got it or not. I hope that helps. I'd love to go on for hours here, actually. One more question?
I'm going to have to wrap up. There was one more person there. He had a question, and we can keep it as brief because we've ran out of time. So that last
Tell that person to email me with the question if he can't. If he can't.
you can ask it
Oh.
now.
Okay.
Hi, I'm going to apologize in advance for this question because it might be a bit complicated. I'm sorry. It's Sinead Murphy. My question is, you've spoken quite a bit about whether or not technical ability in a photograph or the technicality of a photograph is important or not. I know there's a lot of photographers in this room that might have a question about that. And while I do agree with it's not really about the photo, but the photos that you
have to stop.
Sorry, the photos that you've chose were all technically very good. So I'm just kind of wondering.
Yeah. Really, it's Sinead.
Good luck, Deirdre, remembering all of that.
Yeah. No, I'm going to condense it. She's really wondering about the quality of the photograph, and all the photographs that you displayed there were quite good of a quality. But is the photography, the image, the quality of the image, that important?
Not at all.
Okay,
How's that for a short answer? Basically, I have
I'd like
learned.
to give a big round of applause and thank you so much, Judy.
Anybody with questions not answered can email me and I'll try to answer.
Yeah.